Take care, hè? Veilig thuis, hè?
The world you just heard and saw is the world of Afghanistan. Basically consisting of rock, sand and emptiness. They have floodings in the winter and no water in summer. It's very hard for people to live there, not only because of the fights, but also because of the harsh natural conditions. I was sent there my first time to Afghanistan in 2009 as an economic development advisor, civilian, half military. My job was to talk to people, to talk and give advice on private sector development with microcredits, to improvement of basic life conditions, and also sometimes to find alternative livelihoods. And for that job, I had to talk to village elders, to shop owners, and also to farmers. And I want to share my story with you of the farmers. Because of its very hard conditions there for agriculture, many of these farmers go back to poppy. You saw that poppy over there. Poppy is a weed. It grows everywhere, anywhere, under any circumstances. It's also the basis for heroin. 90% of heroin of the world comes from Afghanistan. You can imagine, we didn't like that. So the Dutch, we said, we go there, and we go convince these people of an alternative livelihood, because it's their livelihood. And we found out there is saffron, and saffron was the purple flower you saw, and it also grows anywhere, under any circumstances. And this is spice. We thought that's a good one. It's even higher, has even a higher market value than poppy, than heroin. Interesting. The red gold, they call it. So we provided it to these farmers for free. And we expected all the fields full of these purple flowers. But you feel it coming. It was not like that. It was still full of poppy. That didn't make sense, for us anyway. So what we said, we go in again, on patrols. I go there to talk with them and see what's happening. So I went to this first farmer. I still remember his face, sun-beaten face, a scarf around his head, a long beard, dark eyes. And I fired my questions at him. Why he didn't use saffron. And he said, I don't like it. And I said, but it's good, because it has a much higher market value than poppy. And he said, it's not good. I said, yes, it's good, because it's not drugs, and we bring then spice to the world and not drugs. And he kept silent, and he was just listening to me. And I kept on firing more remarks and questions, and I kept on doing that, repeating myself, until the moment I didn't know any arguments anymore. And I kept silent and was disillusioned. And almost before I left, I turned to him and asked him, how come you don't like it? I really don't understand. It doesn't make sense. He said, I don't like it because it hurts my back. It's very hard to reap that stuff. Poppy is much easier. So it's easy to reap that poppy, so I live longer. That's it. I didn't see that one coming. So then I started really questioning about, hey, but how does it work and how come it's so complex? What does it make so complex? The difference, saffron, poppy, etc. And he started to explain to me, and we had a very nice conversation about it. And also with other farmers, of course. So all talks to all farmers, and we even talked about a reaping machine for saffron. I don't know where this ended, because we handed this program over to the Afghans, which we should, their ownership, and I went home with this experience. But I had one takeaway here, and that was when I started a dialogue with this person, not a discussion, he also took me into his reality and showed me more answers than I could think of myself. Well, I took this back to the Netherlands, where I became the dialogue advisor and trainer who I am today. I'm doing that in the Netherlands, but also in all countries of the world, where there's disasters and conflicts, armed people, armed conflicts. And what I do there, I work there with organizations who not necessarily want to work together because they're not the same blood types, as I call it, or the same organization, don't have the same bosses, but they have to work together anyway because they're also working at the same goal as making the world a bit better and more safe and secure for the people in need over there. And I'm talking about the UN, the Red Cross, military organizations, non-governmental organizations, governmental organizations, of course, Oxfam, all these organizations. I bridge these people and get them together through dialogue. That's the only way out, the way out. And through this work, because it's very international and multicultural, I found out there are some, I call it mutual wisdoms or universal wisdoms. And that's something different, I say, than norms and values, because they're definitely not everywhere the same, I can promise you. But mutual wisdoms we have. And I want to share a couple of them with you, because when I use them to cross borders, to get people to connect it together and to find more solutions together than they would find them themselves. And I want to share some of these wisdoms with you. Maybe you can also use them to cross borders, and maybe even more important, the borders of your own perception. First one, when I ask my public, my audience, what is the difference between an expedition and exploration? And it doesn't matter where I am in the world. It can be Africa, Arab countries, America, Balkans, Europe, whatever. People always say, an expedition, people have a goal on the map. They know what they're looking for. They expect something. They're focused on something. While in exploration, people go into the unknown and see what comes to them. No expectation at all. See what evolves. So then I would say, okay, but then when you look at the discussion and the dialogue, what is the link over there? And they say, easy. A discussion is an expedition. People are looking for something in that conversation. They want to get something out of it. They have a focus. They expect something. While in a dialogue, people are exploring with an open mind, going into the unknown and see what comes to them, what information comes to them. And we say, yeah, that's easy because we know that, of course, but an open mind is not so easy for us because we don't have an open mind by default. We have many habits and lots of focus on everything. And how that works, I want to show you with some other wisdoms, as I call them. And this is what I would do this with my audience. I always say, please count all together all the green objects you see in this room. And then they start counting, and I give them a minute. And after a minute, I ask, how many green objects did you see? And one will say 11, and one will say 12 or 13. Even interesting already, because it's all different. And then I go to one and say, how many blue objects did you see? They didn't see them, because we're not focused on them. Well, I made sure, of course, they were in the room. But because you're focused on one thing, you miss a much bigger picture, right? So the point I want to make here is one of these wisdoms is, when you don't see it, it doesn't mean it's not there. When you don't see solutions of other people, doesn't mean they're not there. So, now we know this. Now, how can we overcome this in a conversation? Going to the dialogue. And I want to show you that in another way. I have there this puzzle for you, because I can show you how this works. And I know many people will say, oh yeah, of course. Believe me, I'm doing this all around the world, and it's always like, oh, I know that one. Some people will know that one, I'm sure. And I promise you also, if I would ask these people up to solve it instantly, it doesn't work. Then it's even hard. The power of a thinking habit. So for the people who don't know it, yeah, what is the question here? Connect these 9 dots with 4 straight lines without the pencil, leaving the paper. And I still again see people nodding. Yeah, but how was it again, right? For the people who don't know it, I will show you to save some time. And now it comes. Outside the box, I hear you think. Of course, we always shout at each other, outside the box, we have to go outside the box. But you're inside the box by default, because we're focused on our 9 dots. Yeah? So we're focused on these 9 dots, so we stick inside this box. And how does it work? I need other people to see more than I can see myself. How come you know to solve this one when you haven't seen this before? The next time, because I told you. Another person did. In this case, it was me. Another person can tell you different things about your reality. They can show you your blind spots. I need other people, is my statement here, and other wisdom, all around the world, to fill in my blind spots, while I can do that for them. The Afghan farmer took me outside of these 9 dots. These 9 dots were my saffron program. He showed me more solutions and more thoughts about it to solve it in another way, a totally different way. Once I had my audience, I had a Greek officer. And I said to him, "Sir, can you please explain me what dialogue means?" Because it's from an old Greek word, dialogue, dia and logos. And he said, "Of course." And it was a little bit exciting for me because I didn't know what he was going to do because I was improvising. And he said, dialogue is from dia and logos. Dia means through, not duo, what many people think, like it's a conversation between 2 people, it's through. And logos is from the word of God or the intelligence of the universe. In those days it could have, a little bit the same, but different answer. So he said we have a conversation through the universe or through God with each other. And he stood up and he made a gesture. He said, when we have a dialogue, we talk about this in the middle. He really did like that. And he said, when we have a discussion, I talk about this, you talk about that, and that is a discussion. Discussion divides, dialogue unites. And now we know it all, right? With the Dutch, we know it all, open mind. I can do this already, Fred, that's not new. I see people think that. I can see that. So, but we also have more obstacles on the way because we don't only have thinking habits, like the 9 dots thing, and behavioral habits, we also have communication habits. And we are not so aware of these. And I will just give you some examples, and I call them dialogue killers or discussion triggers. And the first one I'm going to mention, you for sure know because we know them all, we hate them all. Yes, but, or with all respect, but. Bottom line, you say, I hate what you say, it's rubbish, I don't agree, things like that, right? I would say leave it out, just say, I have a different view on this, or this is how I see it. You don't need that word, just but. Another one, why, the word why, don't use the word why. You want to answer on why, of course, but we people don't like, on a deeper level, the word why, because it feels like I have to justify it to someone. So rather use words like exploring words. How did you come to this thought? How did you see it? What did you bring to this line of thought? Many examples. Exploring words. The last one, but not least, by far. The Dutch are very good in this one, I can tell you, I promise you. I disagree. I don't agree. In all my audience, we are the best. Don't use them. It suggests like you own the reality again. Say, I see it differently. Or this is how I see it. Or let me share my thought. Yeah? Really. Dialogue killers big time. Okay. Wrapping this up. If I would say people who explore through dialogue are people who know they need an open mind to see more than they can see themselves. And there are also people who know that they need a dialogue to get outside their box, and a discussion keeps them inside their box. They also know that when they change the way they look at things, the things they look at change. Through exploring dialogue, we can cross borders beyond our own perception, beyond our blind spots, into a new reality, into a big open space where we can meet other people, connect with them, and to look together and find together more solutions than we would find on our own, ourselves. If I would have only 1 minute, or half a minute even, to give you an advice on a dialogue, I would go back to that one again. I would say, stop saying, I disagree, or I don't agree. Stop saying that. Change your words, change the world. And don't believe me. It's not the truth. Just experiment with it and see what happens. Oh, and by the way, you don't have to agree too. Thank you very much.